Here in the Northern Rockies, dark winter months are outlasted in basements, dens, and nooks, where kindred souls gather to share intel, swap fly patterns, and relive the memories from seasons past. This gathering spot, known locally as a February room, is the inspiration for this podcast. No matter the season, the door is always open to those with a fly fishing story to tell. Brought to you by CD Fishing USA, the North American distributor for Composite Development's fly rods and fishing accessories. Tech, precision, ingenuity, legacy. Go to cdfishing.us and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Here's your host, Lauren Carnop, and this is the February Room.
Welcome to the February Room. Today, my guest is Jennings Hester. He's the founder and executive director of Fishing the Good Fight. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jennings.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, and you are in beautiful Colorado. I imagine that in a place that's that beautiful with some beautiful waters, you must have some fishing stories up your sleeves. And I would love to hear one.
Absolutely, quite a few. We don't spend much time in the city. We're usually out of it. But so last summer I was really excited. I went to this music festival, this country music festival up in Whitefish, Montana, right outside of Glacier, and had a lot of my favorite bands that I'd never seen before. And I was planning on fishing 4 days and then going to the festival at night. So fished the first day, had a blast with a buddy. Got into just countless cutthroat. Great time. The water out there is glacial water, so it's crystal clear. You've got fish rising from 10 feet for any kind of dry fly you throw. So it's incredible. So the second day, I decided I'm going to go fish another section just right outside of Glacier Park. And leading up to this trip, I've been speaking to all the guides in the area that I knew and my buddies in those areas. And I can't tell you the amount of hours I spent tying up flies I needed for that time of year. Tons of dry fly patterns that take a while, like your chubby Chernobyls and hippie stompers and all sorts of parachutes. And so I'd probably tied up, 60 dries on top of my other dry flies that I already had. And so I go out the second day, having a blast, see grizzly bear tracks, bald eagles, just beautiful glacial water. About halfway through the day, I decided to cross the river at a spot that I definitely shouldn't have. And so the current's a little stronger than I think. I get completely swept off. And the only box that falls out is my dry fly box. It has about 100 plus dries. And not only does it have 100 plus dry flies in there, it's also a custom box that was a present of mine from one of my best friends for my birthday. So I am left with one dry fly, and I am not exaggerating here. I'm left with one pale yellow, kind of a light cowhill parachute, if you will, to imitate the mayflies out there. Within the next 20 minutes, I land the biggest cutthroat of the entire trip. And
no way.
So it was a wild day.
My husband and I, one time we went fishing and he gave me his dry fly box and I had it in my pouch, and it was all of his flies that he tied ever since he was little. And I had, unknown to me, I guess I unzipped it and I didn't know it was unzipped. And as I bent over, the flies came out of the box, and it was my first time. It was maybe my second time fly fishing. And I remember looking at my husband, Justin, and I thought he was going to lose it, but he was actually really cool. I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's not a big deal to lose flies. And as we were coming back, this fly box was on this small little island. Like it had somehow made it onto, yes. And I was like, and he goes, oh, and he had this relief. He's like, I didn't want to tell you how upset I was with you because it was your first time fly fishing. And I just thought, but your fly box is actually, and I guess I didn't know at that time how important those flies are, because it's always like, oh, this one was a gift from my grandfather. He tied his last one. So these flies have totally different meanings. And speaking of flies, can you give me a little bit of information about Fishing the Good Fight? Because I know you guys also have tons of flies on your website, but for a good cause.
we do, yeah. So we're a 501c3, so we're a nonprofit. We were founded last November, and we launched in January of this year. The company and the mission, what we're trying to do is we're trying to leverage really the therapeutic benefits of fly fishing to help men with mental illness. And along with that, really the purpose of the company is kind of threefold. We want to help reduce the stigma around mental illness and mental health and help guys feel more comfortable talking about it. We also want to provide outlets and ways for men to take action when they want to, because a lot of guys just don't know what to do if they realize there's an issue. And then the third component of it is providing affordable mental health services to men who can't afford, what is pretty expensive between therapy, psychiatry, medicine, in certain cases. So those are kind of the three different avenues where we're trying to make an impact. And we always knew that fly fishing was so beneficial to myself and all the board members and some of the issues we dealt with ourselves. So we just knew it was a perfect fit. And, as my flies got better and better over the years, I started just having more and more people ask me to buy them. So I said, look, let's take this live, and for my birthday, one of my board members incorporated us as a surprise, and it went from there.
Wow, I love it. So all the proceeds to the flies go to these organizations for mental
Yep.
health?
Yep, exactly. So we donate 100% of our proceeds. We have over 100 patterns on the website, everything from tailwater patterns, freestones, still water, carp flies, some salt flies, and all those proceeds go to different like-minded organizations. So we mix it up, and we're building out the fundraising side of our business right now to bring in additional revenue. But our first donation went to a group called Man Therapy. They're a national digital brand that really uses comedy to spark the conversation. They have a guy with a mustache that's fishing or out hunting or something, just trying to make it a little bit lighter and less intimidating for guys. So we ran a campaign with them as our first donation, and they're integrated into our website. And one of the really cool things they do is they have what's called their head inspection test, which is basically 20 or so questions. And at the end of it, it tells you, hey, you could be at risk for this, whether it's anxiety or substance abuse or depression. And then they'll provide a resource to show you men's specific therapists in the area. So that was our first donation, and then we'll have our next one here at the end of this quarter.
Yeah, I remember reading this book called, I want to say it was Mind on Fire. And it was this woman who had some health issues. And she said, we treat the brain as if it's not something that can get sick or not healthy, that because we can't bandage it, we can't see it, like we can't see the actual injury of the brain or how it's not feeling well. We
Mm-hmm.
think it's not something that needs to be taken care of, like fight through it, get over the hill, get better once you're at the
Correct.
top. And
Tough it out.
yeah, and that's not at all what it is for a lot of people dealing with mental illness or mental health issues. And so I think it's great that your organization is focusing on that, especially with men, because I think for men it's hard for not because I am one, but I've experienced. I've men in my life. I've had men who we've lost due to even suicide, and it was like, well,
Mm-hmm.
he's an outdoors guy. He goes
Right.
hunting, he's fishing, and he's so strong. Like he's physically so strong that even though the signs were there, we just kind of figured because he had such a strong structure of himself that maybe we thought his brain was that way, and it wasn't the case, obviously.
No, yeah, it's a huge issue, and I like to call it a silent pandemic in this country. It's something that not a lot of people are aware just how bad it is right now, and it's getting worse in the age of social media, and there's a lot of research around that. But I like to kind of give myself as an example of exactly what you were just talking about. I was a linebacker. I played high school football. I was all state. I went on to get a scholarship at the University of Alabama and play SEC football. My depression hit it at a young age, and I just thought that's how everyone was. I didn't think there was any underlying issue. I didn't realize that, this was something that could be treated. And I thought I just needed to tough it out. And that's the way life was. And, the average time between symptoms and someone actually seeking help for a mental illness is around 11 years. And
Wow.
that was my case. I dealt with it, on my own for um, probably over 12 years, until my father, thankfully, just basically said, "You're going to see this doctor." Like there's no option. And he basically dragged me in. And the reason that we focus on the men's side of things is one, kind of like you said, the stigma. Just tough it out. Don't be a baby. Be tough. And I was a linebacker. I was an SEC college football player. I was 6'3", 250. I thought I was the toughest guy. I didn't understand why I was dealing with this stuff. And the reality is that 75% of suicides in the U.S. are men, and they're only 25% of the population treated for a mental illness. So, we have a man kill himself every 20 minutes in the U.S., and it's a massive issue that really hasn't been talked about a lot to date. Starting to get a little more traction, and we want to help with it.
Yeah, wow, I had no idea that that was such a high number. And I honestly can say that I don't think there is one person, female or male, that doesn't know someone who's affected by mental health. And especially in Montana too, we do have these really dark days, and we kind of joke about it being February and being really down, but it's actually sometimes can feel very overwhelming when you don't
Right.
see the sun. And how crazy is it that your organization started in January, and then a few months later we have COVID? And
Right.
I can imagine that sometimes COVID has, I mean, they've already say COVID is heightened depression because you're kind of staying at home, you're on social media, you're trying to see what's going on, and it's a fear, you're scared. And I think with mental health, if you're not addressing these issues, it can probably heighten that experience.
100%. I mean, it is crazy timing with us launching, and then COVID coming into the picture, and just how relevant it's just being brought to the forefront with what people are experiencing with the pandemic. So it is a pretty wild coincidence in how that played out.
Have you seen a higher rise of membership since COVID has started? Or I guess it's your first year, so maybe you have nothing to base that on.
Yeah, we don't have a lot to base it on, but I will tell you that our growth has been just it's tremendous, and I think it's a combination. I think COVID certainly plays a role in it, but it was also a combination of just gaining more traction, word of mouth, doing more marketing. So I think it definitely was a piece of it. I mean, we do memberships all year where people get X number of flies and percentage discount off flies all year round or anything on our website. And since COVID, we've had about 20 members, which is way more than any of us anticipated. Brand that we're truly started from square one, with just absolutely nothing, bare bones. So, we've shipped out since COVID probably over 3,000 flies
Jeez.
and 20 members. So it's been incredibly busy.
I was going to say, I saw on your website that you say you inspect every fly before it goes out, which I
Mhm.
think is so great because yesterday I was on the river and I was trying to, tie my fly, and I realized there was glue on the, like at the end. And I was like sitting there and I was just like trying to get it. And I'm like, am I
It's
getting
the worst.
older? So yeah, it's so great. When I saw that, I was like, wow, they inspected. So are they making sure there's no glue?
Yep, and the technical term for that would be UV resin. That's what that is.
Yes,
um,
yes.
but yeah, we really, we truly believe that we sell the highest quality flies in the industry. We don't think there's a better company in terms of the quality, and that's what we stand behind. And we only use the highest caliber hooks, the highest caliber materials. We keep all of the patterns exactly how the original designer created them, unless there've been something they changed over the years, and we update it. And we're lucky that we have some really good relationships in the industry that have helped us, and have really, in terms of just starting the business and providing some mentorship. Like Charlie Craven, for example, is a really good friend of ours. Arguably the best tire in the world, Umpqua's biggest signature tire. see him a few times a week. Guys like him and Pat Dorsey have just been incredible in supporting the movement and the organization. And
Love it that it's like men kind of coming together and supporting each other.
right.
Is there, say there's women who are kind of interested in this organization, maybe because they know someone, have a spouse, a
hmm
friend, or a loved one. How can they get involved in this
Yeah,
organization?
no, that's a great question, and we have a handful of female members, that buy flies from us consistently throughout the year and are really good anglers. And something that we kind of a motto of ours is making lives better. It's not necessarily just men because the man taking action and working to improve himself and push through some of these challenges they're facing. It's not just not just affecting him, like you said. It's affecting his family. It's affecting his significant other. It's infecting coworkers. The list goes on and on. So it's not just about men. It's about everyone. It's just that there's a massive issue with men's mental illness in the country. So in terms of females, we love getting women members, and they can always donate, they can always buy gear, tons of different things they can do.
It's a community, and if there's one person in our community that isn't feeling well, it affects kind of everybody. It's a dominoes effect. I was talking with someone from Project Healing Waters, and they said that they actually did a study about how fly fishing actually can help the brain repair itself on some certain level. Have you
hmm
noticed with fly fishing for yourself? Because I know you said you've kind of dealt with mental health issues and addressing it. Has fly fishing been a way to help with your depression?
Absolutely. So, when I first moved out here, I came, my girlfriend, who we're still together, I moved out before her, and I had fly fished a little bit. I grew up in Georgia, so I fly fished in North Carolina and the mountains of Georgia a little bit, but this was a whole different ball game. And when I was out here on my own, I had a lot of time to really dive into it, and all of a sudden, I found myself on the water, every chance I could get, and I just fell in love with it. Just the mindfulness of casting and paying attention to the bugs and what the fish are doing, and it just took away all the anxiety from everyday life. And after I really got into fly fishing a lot, I found fly tying, and I just found it from a free class, and I went down the rabbit hole quickly, to say the least. Before I knew it, I had more materials than my apartment could handle. But it was the same thing. It was the mindfulness. It was being present. It was getting away from all the distractions of day to day life and all the stress. And it's absolutely been a massive part of my recovery, if you will, and just improving
Yeah.
my quality of life from a point where I couldn't go to a grocery store without completely losing it. I couldn't even select a piece of fruit that I wanted because my anxiety and depression were at such a high. And my girlfriend was at wit's end, my family was at wit's end, going back to how this affects other people, and not just yourself. And when I finally got help, it was, and started fishing and started tying, it was just a complete 360. I mean, I just my quality of life has just improved so drastically.
Yeah, and it just helps when you're just out in nature. And I think also with you being such a competitive football player, I think there's also when you get done with that. I used to play sports all the time. It was, practice, games, and then just always something to practice and look forward to. And I can
Right.
imagine when you get into the level that you were at, that when you lose that training, the performance, the reflection of like, hey, I was doing good because I got this many hits, I did this and this.
hmm
And if you don't see those statistics sometime, I think it's easy to be like, how am I knowing that I'm good?
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I think athletes and military personnel. I think they get hit as hard by it as anyone, just because that entire sense of purpose and training and community they've, dedicated their lives to, is now gone. And that's how it was for me. I mean, I was already dealing with depression and I didn't realize it, while I was in college. But, I remember my head athletic trainer coming in during a workout and saying, "Hey, let's talk." And just saying, "Do you want to keep doing this?" I was dealing with a lot of injuries. I couldn't stay healthy. I wasn't the player I was years before, not even close to it. And I realized it was time to hang it up, and I just lost it. And I just bawled. I just cried uncontrollably. Probably for the first time in my life. Is this tough guy. And after that, it amplified it so much more than what it had been in the past.
Yeah, because you could take your mind off of what the real issue was.
Hmm.
No, I think it's so great that you're sharing this story because, like you said, there is a stigma of, I'm not going to ask him if he's okay. I mean, the majority of females in my community, we're very much like, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How are things at home? And I'll sometimes
Right.
ask my husband, I was like, so you went on a fishing trip. Like, how's everything going? He goes, we're just fishing. I'm like, oh. Oh, okay, okay. Like, but I think it's okay to sometimes, I think it is hard for a lot of people to talk about feelings and the way that they're doing really in at present time. And sometimes it's hard to say, I'm not doing great, because that makes you seem like you're
Yeah.
failing.
We're huge on the whole concept of, men supporting men, because it's really, it's not there, and we do kind of a Wellness Wednesday post every week. And one of the prior ones was check in with your buddy, like just
Yeah.
talk to your, like just see how they're doing. This week's was more about what you were just talking about. It's okay to not be okay. Like, not everyone's okay, and it's okay to talk about that, and you don't have to just bury it. But as men, that's what we're conditioned to do,
Hmm.
um, our entire lives, and especially in a competitive athletic side of things, you're taught that even more. Just bury it, push
Yeah.
it. You just like a physical, injury. Just deal with it. Keep playing.
Yeah, push through the pain, which I think
Right.
as you get older, you kind of realize that that's not smart anymore. You should never push through pain.
Correct.
I know you said you tie some flies. So is there a fly that's one of your favorite go-to when you're on the river?
Um, yeah, there definitely is. So, out here in Colorado, we have a lot of tailwaters. They're known for their small bugs and picky fish and technical fishing. So I fish a lot of smaller stuff out here. Um, my favorite patterns and some flies that I just really love tying, because they're flies that take some work to get good at. There's some flies, you can pick up right away, but I love Craven's Juju Batis. It's one of my favorites. I love his two-bit hooker, and the chocolate foam wing emerger is an absolute killer out here.
What is that one called?
Chocolate foam wing emerger. So it's just
Delicious.
yeah, it's a tiny little brown colored mayfly with a foam wing that dangles mid column and just imitates an emerging mayfly. And the trout out here just can't resist it if you have a good presentation.
Do you have a really great fishing catch in beautiful Colorado rivers?
Oh yeah, it's we're lucky out here. I mean, I typically, my favorite stretches of water to fish are Cheeseman Canyon and the Dream Stream, and I'm so lucky. I mean, they're both just gorgeous, and they both host some of the biggest rainbows, browns, and cutbows you'll find in the entire state. And they're also a blast because they're so challenging. I mean, they're very pressured, and these are smart fish, and you really have to be on your game, and you've got to be 100% focused all the time, which is what I love about it.
Yeah, it kind of brings back to just like losing yourself and choosing.
Right.
Yeah, it's always a puzzle, which I always kind of like about fishing is that you're trying to
It
figure
is.
out, you're like looking at the water, you're trying to see what bugs are laying around,
Hmm.
and then you're trying to hit the foam line, and then you're just like more times than not, you're not catch, or for me, you're not catching anything. I was just telling my husband the other day, I went wade fishing yesterday on an adventure that totally went sideways. My girlfriend and I was like, let's grab our cooler. We got this huge Yeti cooler, went out there and got lost. Somehow we got stuck in our waders and cow manure. And anyways, my husband opened up the garage today. He's like, your waders smell like shit. I was like, yeah, because they are covered in cow manure. But it's, I got done with it and it was just this crazy chaos. And it was still, I know it sounds crazy. It was still fun and it was relaxing because I got to be on the river with my girlfriend, and we were talking about fly fishing and just talking about life. And it's just a great way to lose yourself.
Yeah, we just hired our first intern this semester, and he's an awesome guy, and he's helping to build out our fundraising platforms and those different avenues. But he's been fly fishing for a while, and we initially met because he became a member, and he met one of our board members on the water. But the first time we grabbed coffee, he's like, "Look, I'm gonna go ahead and let you know I have more fun not catching fish than anyone you'll ever meet." And he struggles with pretty severe anxiety, and it's a huge outlet for him. And he's like, I just love it. Like, I'm terrible. I don't know what I'm doing. Hopefully you can help me. But it's how I unplug. It's how I relax.
And has he been on the river with you a lot?
We haven't gotten to get out yet. I've just been so busy. We've been so backed up with orders lately. But it's actually on our, we use a platform called Trello to kind of manage our products and things that we're trying to accomplish, our tasks. And one of those tasks is get out and fish together.
Yeah, you're like, that's the whole point. Like, we actually want to do what we love, and we better get on the river. So if anybody wants to learn more about this organization, wants to donate, wants to become a member, what's the best method of them reaching out to you or to Fishing the Good Fight?
Yeah, so we're on all the social media platforms. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and then our website's very simple. It's just fishingthegoodfight.com. On the homepage, you'll see a donate tab. You'll see become a member tab. You'll see flies, gear. So all that stuff's easily accessible on our website.
So you don't have to be in Colorado to support this organization. You can be in Montana.
Absolutely not. We have members all over the country. I mean, we and we ship orders all over the country. It's been wild to see. I mean, the majority of it has been west, just because fly fishing is so big here. But we get members from North Carolina, Georgia, Vermont, Maine, Oregon, California. It's everywhere.
Do the mental health organizations that the proceeds go to, is it just directly to Colorado, or is it kind of nationwide?
No, yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag. So, some things we do are national, and then some things we do are more tailored toward Denver. And there's actually a reason for that. It's not just because we're here. Denver actually has the highest male suicide rate in the country. I don't have a good answer as to why, but it's the worst in the country. So our next donation is actually going to a group called People's House that provides scholarships and affordable mental health services via therapy for people who can't pay for standard therapy sessions. We do some stuff locally, and then we also do some national stuff.
I think it's always good to help the community that needs the help the most at the time. And so, I think it's wonderful what you guys are doing. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. And hopefully, if you ever want to come up to Missoula, you have someone that and we can go fishing together.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love that. And our newest members from Helena. So.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah,
not as great as Missoula, so I won't hold it against. Them. But Helena's great. No, I'm just joking.
But yeah, no, that'd be great. And thanks for having us and, letting us tell our story a little bit. And it's, the support's been incredible, and we're just excited to keep this momentum going.
Go to thefebruaryroom.com, where you can access a complete library of our podcast and read more about our guests, their fishing stories, and favorite fly patterns. We're always looking for exceptional fly fishing yarns, and if you have one to spin, shoot us an email at info@thefebruaryroom.com. The February Room is always free, but if you feel like throwing a nickel in the pond, we appreciate any additional listener support. For companies and individuals interested in sponsorship opportunities, please contact us for our media kit. Thanks for stopping by the February Room, and we'll see you down here next week.